All right. Looks like we are live. Not seeing us on YouTube on my phone though. Let's double check here. Just making sure that people can hear us and see us. First
Yeah, I
time
got
we've
it.
ever.
I got it on the phone.
You got it on the phone. All right, perfect.
Yep.
Sorry about that, everybody. It's our first time going live here, and our chief operator, Mr. Mr. Jordan. Don't know if he wants his name out there. Um, we're just gonna go with it. He's not
Like
around.
the
He's out of the
like the Penn
country.
State kicking game, we just got to get some kinks out early here, and
Exactly.
we'll be squared away.
We're figuring it out as we go. So obviously, Penn State just knocked off West Virginia 38-15. Little tense for a little bit. Halftime score was only 14-7. Wasn't perfect by any stretches, but ultimately turns out to be basically exactly what the experts predicted. By experts, I mean me, because I said it would be 38-14, 38-15. So I'm going to ride that one at least for one more week. So I think we're just going to try to go by the 3-and-out style that we did last year. I don't know if we can see comments or not. That'd be kind of cool if anyone's commenting out there. It has a tab here on the
I'll track along on my phone and jump in if we have anybody.
Okay, yeah, it says it here on StreamYard that it says comments will show up, but we'll see. So, anyways,
Okay.
we're gonna go offense for about 10 minutes, defense for about 10 minutes, and then just 10 minutes of special teams, which was obviously a concern tonight, and just some general thoughts. So let's start with offense. And obviously, I think the first name we got to mention, the name that everyone's going to be talking about, the name that Todd Blackledge was really building up almost to an extreme at points. Drew Aller in his first career start did a lot of really good things for the numbers. 21 of 29, 325 yards, 3 touchdowns. Zach and I had a lot of good conversations going tonight. Zach, what do you think of his performance, just kind of in general?
Yeah, my sense, and I think I sent this in the group chat that we always reference is the coaching staff didn't see the passing game as a liability coming into this game. I think we thought maybe we'd just really focus on running the ball and try to get some play action in there for Aller. I mean, they trusted him, and frankly, I think despite the question marks that have been floated externally about the wide receiver group, I think they trust a number of wide receivers. They played a lot of guys at the position, and so again, for me, I was just surprised that it was. I mean, it was more evenly balanced, honestly, than anything. Especially early, I felt like we were really throwing the ball early, and I think they made it a priority to get Aller some easy throws in early. I know Deven and you and I talked every game. It seems like there's formations, especially when we will flex out of a particular formation and put a bunch into the boundary. Teams will never get numbers out there,
Yeah.
and it's just a numbers game. And so Aller has a really quick release that some of those little quick wide receiver screens into the boundary are a great way, I think, early in the game to get a quarterback. Like you're a basketball coach, right? You just need to see the ball go in the hoop. Sometimes all of a sudden it's easier to shoot. So I think they came in with a game plan of getting him involved early and often, and not sort of turtling up and just saying, we like our running game, we like our defense, so let's not lean on the quarterback too much. I think they kind of went the opposite direction, which is good to see. And we'll probably talk about the receivers a little bit more as we get into it. But that was one of the big takeaways for me offensively is they don't see this as a one-dimensional offense. I think the staff has a lot of confidence across the board with the whole offense.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I made the bold prediction that Penn State was going to rush for about 300 yards against West Virginia. I just really thought that was going to be the primary focus, was that they were just that Franklin and Yurcik and the staff was going to really ease Aller in. It was going to be a lot of handoffs, and Singleton and Allen were both just going to get theirs. But clearly, we are not afraid to let Drew Aller throw it. I think, let me double check my numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different receivers for Aller, 21 completions to 8 different receivers, because Prabula had that one completion there at the end.
Yep.
I think that's really good numbers. And Zach and I talked in our group chat. So Aller looked really good at times, and whenever he can set his feet, I think he's an elite quarterback, and I think he will be by the time all is said and done. My one concern, and obviously I was the Aller homer last year, I was calling for him all season, so I'm going to be critical of him because I expect him to play well. Whenever West Virginia brought any pressure, especially in the first half and into the early third quarter, Drew got a little antsy. I felt like it was Sean Clifford out there again, where his feet weren't set. He was trying to get out of the pocket maybe a little too quick. Obviously, I think what Aller did really well was he kept his eyes downfield, and that's something that Clifford struggled with at times. Was yeah, he could scramble better than probably Drew was. I think he ultimately by the end of his career was more athletic than Drew currently is. But Aller kept his eyes downfield and tried to find open guys, but he just wasn't set, and he was just a little off balance and was missing a couple of throws. Obviously, it's hard to be nitpicky when he only has 8 complete incompletions, and I mean the one we can talk
At
about
least
was,
two are drops. Yeah.
right. The one, even the one that Blackledge was really critical of him to KLS there on the slant.
Hit him in the hands. Yeah. I mean,
It did hit him in the hands. Was it a bad throw? Yeah, sure, but it still hit him right in the hands, and he definitely. I think KLS realized he probably should have caught it too. If it's a good throw, it's a touchdown. But even on a bad throw, it's a first down. So, I mean, hopefully that improves, and I think maybe that's a perfect transition, one way or the other, whichever one you want to take here, Zach. Either way, I think it's a transition to one. We still had 3 or 4 drops from wide receivers. That's a little concerning. And two, is our offensive line gonna be all right? They were spotty at times this year. So I'll let you hit either one of those. We got about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes here on
gotcha.
offense. So
Maybe I'll just do a little bit of both. I
sure.
think like I kind of touched on the receivers at the very beginning. The drops are always concerning, right? And I think we had a couple guys with Cephas made a nice catch, and then the very next play, I think he potentially had a touchdown on his hands there, and through his hands, we'll say. And it was a little odd. I think there was a lot of high expectations for him. Frankly, I saw him second team All-American. I think it was like Sporting News. He was kind of down the pecking order a little bit, and I think this might be a fluid situation. So I don't know that we want to read too much into things
right
out of tonight. Other than maybe it seems to me that Lambert Smith and Trey Wallace are 1A and 1B. Those are the guys at the top. I think Liam Clifford's going to end up being the slot guy. I really do. I think he's a good route runner. He's got good hands. But there's a lot of guys that are. Malik McLean had a pretty nice game. The transfer out of Florida State. I wouldn't count Cephas out. He's clearly got like a wide receiver 1 type body. And then there's some other young guys that are going to be fighting for playing time as well. But I think there's enough talent there. In the preview, we talked about it as being a question mark. I think it is a question mark in terms of who and when and to what degree. But I think as a group, as a whole, I think there's enough talent there that it's not going to be a position group that we look back on at the end of the season and say, man, we just stunk at wide receiver. And that was the reason we weren't good enough. Flipping over to the offensive line, you mentioned, I thought the running game was pretty good. I thought we were consistently getting a push. Allen and Singleton, man, the thing that really spoke to me with both of those guys was the patience. There's a lot of runs where it looked like maybe there wasn't a whole lot there, and just setting up blocks and helping the offensive line by waiting just a split second or taking that little jump cut. We didn't really pop any big ones, and that's not necessarily concerning, but we're so spoiled, I think, from last year that we just want to see these big long touchdown runs. But largely, I thought the run game was pretty good. Largely, the pass protection was pretty good. There was some notable breakdowns early on. You mentioned Aller having some happy feet. I think early on, West Virginia, I know in that first quarter, I think I texted you that I was really surprised they were getting some pressure. And one of the things we talked about in the preview and that I kept reading about and seeing from last year was they didn't really blitz a lot. They didn't get a lot of pressure. They got home a few times, or rather didn't really get home, but they got enough pressure to move Aller. And that's where he was getting some happy feet. And I think it got better as the game went on. Caden Wallace had a big whiff that Todd Blackledge called him out on. The other thing, talking about the depth of the receiver position, I'll say before the game was out of hand, you had Drew Shelton getting snaps at left tackle, and you had Vega Ione at right guard. So again, even with the injury to Tengwall we talked about, it's still nice to be able to say we think we got 7 guys that we're putting on the field in legitimate moments. So all in all, pretty good stuff on the offense, things to work on, obviously to take away and say we got to be better, but pretty good first game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And just so to offer a couple of my opinions there, I completely agree with you about we're spoiled on these big plays out of the running game. I mean, tonight we had a big pass. We had a couple of big plays in the passing game. We still averaged 4.2 yards a carry. I think that's a really respectable number. Whenever I feel like we were way more 50-50. Obviously, we end with 35 rush attempts, 30 pass attempts. Changes a little bit. That last drive was very run heavy, so we were probably maybe like 52% pass, but still very 50-50. Singleton finishes with 70 yards on 13 carries. His longest carry was only 14 yards, and I think we just expect that every game he's going to get a 25 to 50 yarder, and hopefully they come during the Big Ten slate. But still, to get 4.2 yards a carry, I'm okay with it.
Well, and as I always, not to interrupt, but as I always
Yeah.
beat the drum for, Singleton and Allen, just looking at their carries, take out Prabula, Aller, and Potts on that last drive. The two main guys, they averaged like a little over 5 yards a carry.
Right.
Which again, isn't amazing, but when you don't have that 80-yard run that you sometimes get with Singleton, you're not going to get these inflated averages. Picking up 5 yards a carry is great. I love that, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was the strength of what those guys did, was just they were just getting yards on every play.
Right. Offensive line wise, you hit on Caden Wallace. I thought he was not good. There was other guys that I thought weren't maybe great, but I think Caden Wallace is a concern for me, and I think we said it last year and in our preview show that's a concern for me. He missed a couple big blocks that we got lucky on, just to say the least. So that's a concern if there's somebody that can fight for that spot. Obviously, Franklin thinks he's the best guy or he wouldn't be starting. We aren't at camp. Maybe he's looking better in practice, but I'm concerned. One name that I do need to offer a shout out before we move to defense. Obviously, I got to owe Keandre Lambert-Smith a little bit of a backtrack here. I said I was not expecting a big season from him. I called him out in the preview show. Obviously, he didn't see it. There's no shot that he watched this. But I said that I didn't think he was going to be very good. His route on his second touchdown, what a great play designed by Yurcich, and a really, really good route by him. So I got to offer him props on that. To come in motion, sneak behind the linebacker, and then sprint to the corner. Really, that delayed sprint there, I think, really is what freed him open. Sure, West Virginia blew the coverage, but we said that might happen a couple times. But I thought that was a great route from him. And you also mentioned Liam Clifford. Obviously, he only had 2 catches, but there was a couple times where I think he was open, and we'd have to go back and look at the film completely. I agree with you. I think he's the slot guy. And as hard as I was on Sean Clifford, I like Liam Clifford. It must be the white wide receivers or something that in the slot sneaking in behind guys. I thought he looked really good, and I hope he has a good.
The switch to number 2 looks great too, though.
I agree. I like the single digit on the slot receivers.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's hit Penn State defense against West Virginia offense. I think the biggest concern for me was we mentioned that CJ Donaldson was going to have a good game. I think he looked really solid, but my concern more is Garrett Green and the ability of him to run. One thing that really stood out for me, I thought Abdul Carter was not good tonight. I think it was one of his weaker performances. It's hard to say, but I can think of 2 specific plays where he completely missed a tackle, and there was another play where Garrett Green was looking to get to the first down marker. I think it was a 3rd and long. Abdul Carter was clearly the spy because he had no responsibilities, came in for a huge hit on Green and just missed him. Green made one little shifty move to his left, and Carter just whiffed by him. It looked like Carter was trying to take his head off instead of just wrapping him up, which, I guess I can't really blame the guy for trying to get a statement hit on a quarterback. But it ultimately ended up in a first down, and I feel like that was their touchdown drive. I might be forgetting that there in the second quarter. I definitely could be wrong, but I think it was on the same drive. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But I didn't think Abdul Carter played very well. So, Zach, what's your thoughts on defense? Even what I said, or just your own thoughts in general here?
Yeah, no, I think, and I think it's fair to be overly critical sometimes when you're talking about elite players too, because the expectations are just higher. And there was a number of plays where Carter was either spying and took a bad angle as he got in the backfield on Green. A couple times Green got in the open field, and it wasn't just Carter. I mean, he made some moves. It is really tough. I think there's nothing tougher than dropping back into zone when you have a good scrambling quarterback like Green was. And I think we kind of undersold him, frankly. He's good.
Agreed.
He's a good runner.
He played really well.
And the quarterback breaks through the defensive rush. And I think there were some times where the defensive, the front 4 or even however many we were bringing, didn't keep that sort of gap integrity and just allows him to break right through, which you're going to have again we talked about this before. The more aggressive you play, the more aggressive you blitz, the less your pass rush is worried about keeping the quarterback in the pocket, because the whole goal is havoc, to use your word. We just want to make it havoc, right? And it's really hard to make those tackles in the open field. But there was a couple where Carter did not look good, and some other guys as well. But that, again, my takeaway is when you're going to play that style, you're going to have some of that. We also had a lot of plays, I think, where, looking back statistically, if you're a stat guy, you're going to say, well, where's the pass rush? Why didn't we have more sacks? It's West Virginia.
Right.
They can't pass. Green just got away a lot, right? And there's a lot of times where we didn't get a sack, but the pressure just completely blew up any chance of a successful play. And so for me, this is kind of like the advanced analytical stat stuff, but I'd like to see, like, what's the percentage of passing downs where some type of pressure got home and impacted the throw. I think that was fairly high. And that's kind of the way to look at it, because with these types of quarterbacks, you're not going to get home a lot. And even Aller is a good example where West Virginia got in there a few times, and I think they got him once or twice, but there was a number of plays where the pass rush got home to him and didn't get a sack, but screwed the play up. And, so yeah, I think there again, as same thing on the offensive side, there's a lot to take away from that. I think clearly Penn State, and I think we talked about this in the preview, I think Penn State's going to be a really, really good third and long defensive team.
Yes, absolutely.
Every defense wants to be in third and long, but we've got a lot of different ways that we can play those third down situations. We can blitz. We can kind of do whatever you want, because you have corners that you can trust. And I thought Kalen King and Johnny Dixon really did not get challenged, both in the context of when they were challenged, it was no sweat for them. But also, I don't even think West Virginia really tried to challenge them, because I think they just figured there's better ways to go about this. So I for me, it's more about first down, right? Can we stop the big 7-8 yard runs that they were getting on first down? Because when we get to third down, I think we're a really good defense. But there were a lot of they didn't really gash us per se with the run game, but they had a lot of success on the ground. And I think looking back on film, there's going to be a lot of it wasn't like aggression or schematics. I think it was mostly just guys losing that gap integrity. We got beat outside early. It seemed like they were running outside a lot.
Agreed.
And we just were not setting the edge. And so I think there's some things you can just clean up from a like discipline standpoint. But they have a really good offensive line too. I know Todd Blackledge was all over it, specifically the center. I thought the center was the best player on the field the whole night.
Yep.
Really good. Really good.
I was going to say the same thing when you came back to me. So.
First team All-American center. That guy was really, really good. And you saw it whenever they went QB sneak. I mean, they were not – they were picking up at least 2 or 3 yards every time they were in sneak. I mean, it was just that guy was really good. So I'm not too concerned about the run defense, but it's definitely something to keep your eye on, because West Virginia did have a lot of success.
Right. And I think we even brought it up, and I know I saw it in a couple other podcasts, that I think the weakness of our defense is the interior defensive lineman, just because of a size design. Basically, is our linemen aren't huge, and we graduate PJ Mustipher, and now we have some smaller guys in there, and that was clearly West Virginia's strength, was their interior guys. And I think, like you're saying, we couldn't steal the edge because we were taking bad angles to try to maybe even overcompensate for the interior that Donaldson and these other guys, Donaldson and Green, were able to bounce outside, especially early. And I feel like as the game went on, we adjusted to that and did get better, which is, I mean, that's a sign that of a team that's going to get better is, hey, we're weak here. We're going to overcompensate. Now they're having success. We got to adjust and play better on the outside. And like you said, I think once we kind of got away from some of those exotic, stunning blitzes, packages and stuff that Diaz loves, I feel like we almost tried a little too hard early to be creative. And instead we just started bringing guys, like in the third quarter and early in the fourth, we just started bringing dudes, and they were just coming and keeping in their lanes and attacking it. It like almost looked like a kickoff coverage where guys are just running straight in lanes to try to seal certain spots. And I think Manny Diaz is obviously super aggressive, but he also knows when things aren't working, he adjusts. And I thought he did a really good job. You mentioned Johnny Dixon. I think the 2 or 3 times that they tried to throw at him, I thought he did a really, really good job, especially when they were in man coverage, when they went zero coverage.
Yeah, there was a deep shot they tried at Carter where Johnny Dixon basically ran the route for him, and Carter had to pretty much play the defensive back role, and
right, and pinned him on the sideline to where there was no shot that Devin Carter was going to get that. There
was a deep pass early. West Virginia it looked like they kind of had a shot. I'm trying to think who they threw it to, but Jalen Reed, the safety, ended up in coverage and he played it like a corner as well. I just think that the secondary is such a strength. Teams,
right.
And again, we talked about West Virginia not being a great passing team, but you could almost sense from a game plan standpoint, like they knew what they didn't want to try. They knew what they wanted to stay away from, and I think downfield shots were something they just weren't interested in.
Yeah, I totally agree. And if I have one nitpick, it's which Zach is, someone's happy about Penn State, I guess. Zach, as you know me as a basketball coach, this might sound surprising. I feel like we almost played a little too much zone in the secondary, and I almost wish we could just challenge our DBs to play more one-on-one or just one over the top coverage. That one big play they had early in the game was a blown zone coverage where our corner and our safety both went to the middle of the field. I don't remember if it was Carter. I think it was Carter snuck behind and ended up down to like the 10 or whatever.
It seemed like somebody blew something on that route.
I actually think it might have been Johnny Dixon, which was his one mistake. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the defense to hold them to 15 points. One of them kind of in mop-up time there at the end. Obviously, I know they scored with like 4 minutes left, 3.5 minutes to go. But still, I'm pretty content with the defense. There's things to work on, obviously, and for us to take that, and us meaning Penn State, to take that leap and be a playoff contender that a lot of people think we can be. There's things to work on, obviously, but it goes back to what you always say. How much better was playing this game than playing Portland State or whoever the heck Oregon beat by 75 points or whoever Oklahoma beat by 75 points? Like we played a real living, breathing Big 12 team that I think is going to actually be much better than they were last year. I'm not saying they're going to win 10 games. They're probably still going to go 6-6 or 7-5, but I think they're much better because of the personnel they have. Obviously, if Donaldson can stay healthy, I think they got a legit stud at running back who can find ways to get yards.
Do they have TCU on the schedule? They might
probably
win that one, but
yeah, I don't know.
No, I think I'm with you. I think West Virginia, we undersold them a little bit. I think, and again, maybe it's that natural inclination to give credit to a team that you beat, so that you want them to be better as the season goes on. But I just think they did some stuff well. Clearly that they like their offensive line, they like the running back, they like the run game. I like their quarterback. To your point about only giving up 15 points, and we were talking about the running game, looking at the statistics. CJ Donaldson, 18 carries for 81 yards. That's 4.5 a pop. That's pretty good, right, for a running game. That's not anything I'm super upset about as a defense. The quarterback rushes for 71 yards. That's just tough, right? It's hard to keep a running quarterback down, and that's something I think if you look around the Big Ten, I don't think there's really a Garrett Green in the Big Ten, or at least any of the for the first time in quite a while. I think Ohio State has a pretty immobile quarterback.
Right.
Normally you have like the Braxton Miller, even the JT Barretts, and CJ Stroud was a pretty good runner, and I don't know that there's a lot of Garrett Greens running around in the Big Ten.
Agreed. And just looking at West Virginia's schedule, not like Zach said, we do kind of, and this is everybody, but we're going to try not to be guilty of it, making West Virginia seem like now they're a good team because they played decently well against Penn State. But you got Duquesne, who they should beat. Pittsburgh, I think, is a wash. Pittsburgh played nobody.
That should be an interesting game. Yeah.
Right. At the backyard brawl. Then you got
Texas Tech. That one's in Morgantown too. So
correct. Then they got Texas Tech in Morgantown, who is in a dogfight. My super dog pick. They're tied at 17 going to the fourth quarter right now. So I'm feeling really confident about that one. Then they're at TCU, who we're not going to give Colorado a ton of credit yet. Yes, they looked very, very good, but I'm not convinced that TCU is any good. Then you got Houston, who was in a dogfight today. I don't remember if they ended up winning or not.
They ended up winning by 3. Yep.
Okay. OK State, UCF, BYU. Like, I mean, there's wins out there for
There's
them.
a
I
lot of
think
winnable games. I mean,
there's very winnable games. Cincinnati and Baylor. Baylor lost to Joe Schmo today. I mean,
yeah.
they
I mean, the beauty of the
what,
Big 12 is
30-point
like
underdogs.
there's not a lot of like Northwesterns or Rutgers, but there's also
Right.
not an Ohio State. There's not a Michigan. There's not a Penn State.
Yeah.
There's not really an Iowa. I mean, you
Right.
can look at all
As
those
of
games and say we got a shot every Saturday. We got a real shot every Saturday.
after this week with TCU losing, they're going to have one. And now that they played Penn State, West Virginia is going to have one ranked opponent, which is Oklahoma, who is in the 20s right now. That's it. They're the only ranked team left on their schedule. Now, will OK State or Cincinnati or somebody find a way to creep in every once in a while? Yeah, maybe. Just depends how the season goes. But I wouldn't be surprised if they don't if Oklahoma's the only ranked game they play the rest of the year. So West Virginia fans, if you're watching this, I wouldn't. I'm not saying Neil Brown should stick around. Don't get me wrong. If you want him gone, I totally respect you. But I wouldn't count out that you guys might win 7 games this year and go to a real bowl game. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
and to Neil Brown's defense, I mean, I thought they came in with the right game plan. I
I
thought
thought he
they
called a
largely
good game. Him
they
being
didn't
the
really
offensive
have
play caller.
yeah, and they really didn't have a lot of the procedural miscues that you see teams have sometimes in like the whiteout conditions.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. I don't think they turned the actually. I don't think there was a turnover
I don't. Neither team.
period other than turnover on downs.
Correct.
But so they took care of the ball. They really, from a procedural standpoint, handled their business well. Came in with the right strategy. They just got out athleted, and that's kind of what everybody expected coming in. So
Right. So I mean, I think that this was a great game for Penn State to have. I know our goal is about 30 minutes, so we got about 3.5 minutes left. First thing I want to do is I want to shout out our friend here, Kevin Chandler. Hey, we have 5 people watching this. It's our first ever live stream. It is 11:30 at night on Saturday. So shout out to you, Kevin Chandler, for watching the podcast. You're our biggest fan. We're your biggest fan. We found a great quarterback. K. Lambert Smith is a #1 receiver as well. I agree with you. I was hard on K. Lambert Smith. If he's not 1, he's definitely 1B with Harrison Wallace. So appreciate the comment, Kevin. Keep cheering for Penn State. Last thing we want to hit on here very quickly, Zach. What is going on with our kicking? Is it Sam Ficken again, or like what? I mean, what is going on? I don't even. Why was Sahindek or I don't even. I'm sorry that I'm mispronouncing his name. Why was he even kicking? I thought that we all agreed that we would be better off with
with
Falcons.
Falcons, yeah,
Yeah, like I
don't know.
thought that was obvious.
We may have just missed that one. I'm sure somebody in the comments will let us know if there was reporting that Sadeak was going to be the guy.
I know, but he
I
was
don't know.
bad
I mean,
last year. Like he, I mean,
yeah,
he wasn't.
I'm guessing it was one of those things in camp where it was probably like pretty close, and both guys, whoever got the job, was probably going to be on a short leash. I'm wondering if it was that type of situation. And I mean, the odd thing is those kicks were carbon copy. The second kick was a carbon copy of the first one. I mean, it was like literally on replay, and it it looked like my tee shot, right, where it just starts out right and keeps going right. And
yeah.
But it was nice to see Falcons come in, and again, that one was just a little chip shot, but it was just nice to see one go in. Getting back to the basketball analogy, now maybe it's his job to lose because he's seen one go through the uprights and he's got that confidence. And I am wondering though if this is going to be a season-long problem, and if it's one of those years where we're just not going to kick from like 35 plus, and we're going to be
we might as well go for it.
If everybody can remember the Bill O'Brien years where you referenced Ficken, like I mean there was games where you just knew like if it was slightly windy or it was raining at all, like we're going for it on every fourth down. And you just have to, you kind of have the game plan around that. And so that was where I was a little, I questioned the play calling a little bit. If you did have a bit of a question mark in your kicking game with both of those kicks, I thought maybe you run the ball on third down, or you try to a screen or something on third down to get a few yards to set up like a 4th and 3 or 4th and 4 or something so you can go for it. But at the same time, you can't just say we don't trust our kicker, so we're never going to kick. Like you got to try, you got to see what you have.
Right. And I do want to be clear because I hate the people that on Twitter and stuff that are like Sahidek, that are just too critical of these guys that are, I mean, Sahidek's probably 19, 20. I think he's a sophomore. He's 19, 20 years old. That's a tough environment to kick in. Do I think he should have made them? Heck yes, he should have made them. but like let's also just keep in mind that he is a human person, and
Yeah.
like I
And they
I
weren't
hate
shanked,
that.
right? Like he didn't
Yeah,
shank them.
right,
Like they were fairly sound. I think he just got his starting point off,
right.
right? I mean, if he just starts that on the left side of the uprights, it's a nice little baby draw right down the middle.
Right. And one thing I will say too, before we wrap up here, is shout out to Riley Thompson, who I assume is the holder. I definitely could be wrong, but usually the punter is the holder. To go from Sahidek left footed to then go to Falcons the right foot, like that's a
Yeah, no,
subtle
that's a
but a
great
tough
point.
change for a field goal and those 2 extra points. So I'm and
That's
even
a
the
great
long
point.
snapper. So
And I don't know if Kevin's the last guy with us, but that's the kind of analysis that we get here. You're not going to
yes,
see Blue White Illustrated or Patered or whatever it's called now pointing
yep,
stuff out like that. But that literally is. I mean, that's if you think about the pressure of you talk about the pressure of the kicker, right? The
yeah,
holder has just as much pressure,
right,
and the way you're catching the ball from the snap is
completely
completely
backwards. Yeah,
different. Like so, if you're right-handed or left-handed, that can make a huge difference. And the holds weren't the problem with either of those kicks. The holds
right.
were good. The kick he just missed the kick. But
Yeah, so that's something that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Should it be a problem next week against Delaware? Let's hope not. Um, I'm gonna feel pretty confident that it won't be a problem next week. The weather looks absolutely gorgeous for Saturday against Delaware. Uh, Upper 70s, no wind, noon kickoff on the old Peacock channel, streaming channel.
upper
But either
70s Fahrenheit or Penn State's score.
yeah, I don't. We're not putting up 70. Delaware's good. They're like top 20 in one
Yeah,
AA. It's going to be a ranked win for
I
us.
mean,
Remember?
our friend Jordan had 40. I think he went with 48 tonight,
Yeah.
which they kind of got close to that. But
Right. So, all right, Zach. You have anything else? I told the people we'd be 30 minutes, and we kind of tried to figure it out for 2 minutes. So I'm going to say that we're still right on target at 32 minutes. Do you have any last comments? Maybe 30 seconds. Last
just
comment.
a just a good solid week one win. If you woke up from a coma that you were in for the last year or two and you saw Penn State beats West Virginia and you didn't really know what West Virginia was last year, you'd look at this win and say that's a good solid week one win. And I think that's
Mhm.
what it was, right? And the last point I'll make is Franklin, probably more than anything this last offseason and into fall camp, has preached on the depth that this team has. And we talked about a number of position groups here tonight: wide receiver, offensive line, where they were playing more than just sort of the first unit. Quarterback, I thought Bill Prabula looked really good.
Yeah.
Running back, Trey Potts didn't even get until the end. Secondary, we've beat the secondary to death. He's sometimes things are coach speak, and then sometimes they're telling you what they're seeing. And I think the depth that this team has is probably, I think it has to be the best that he's had since he's been here.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. Last thing I'll say before we leave, big thanks to Nittany No Huddle Nation. I know we have 6 people watching right now, which is 6 more than I thought we would have. But we reached 300 subscribers this week, which is a huge accomplishment. I mean, we're just 3 dudes from Central PA who love Penn State football and decided to make a podcast. So the fact that we have 300 subscribers and people actually care about this and the crap that we have to say sometimes, big thanks to everybody. We got big stuff planned all year, and it's going to be a fun year. And hopefully, hopefully Penn State's going to be fighting for a playoff spot, and we have a lot of fun stuff to say. So, thanks to everybody at Nittany No Huddle Nation. We'll be back. I don't know when. Are we doing a full recap? I think Jordan wants to do a full recap, but I don't know if I don't
We
know how
might.
that.
I don't know. I don't want to speak ill of Delaware, but we might be able to blend everything into one.
Right.
I don't know how in depth we're going to get on Delaware's film from their week one, but we'll be back this week with something for sure.
Yep, we'll be back, and we got plenty of cool stuff coming up. So, thanks everybody. Stay safe, and guess what? Go Rutgers tomorrow. Who do they? Rutgers and
Northwestern, and
that's gonna be a barn burner, boys.
San Jose State, Oregon State. Don't sleep on that game.
That'll be a good one. All right. See you later.